Hi guys, it's Andy from Man City Fan TV. Apologies, my voice, I've just about got it back, but I don't know how long it's going to last. Full of a cold. I think just everything the last couple of months has caught up. But anyway, transfer news for today. Well, if we start off with Ben Mendy, well, as we now know, he has, according to reports, he's actually gone back to Barcelona with Dr. Cougar, where he's looking at it here. He's had surgery last night on the cartilage meniscus, so on the left knee. So it's not actually a full ACL. So the news is certainly better than it could have been. He obviously went on international duty with the French squad and then pulled out, and it was quickly established that it would be best to have this surgery now. Rumours are around about 8 weeks he'll be out. It might be a little bit less, knowing certainly Dr. Kugat's record. He seemed in good spirits. Looking at some of the images, you can see he was posting on Twitter as well, making a sort of funny comment on Instagram about the fact that his other knee was jealous of the one where he had surgery. So yeah, I mean, it's disappointing. It'll bring up a whole new debate, as already happened on Twitter this morning, as to should Manchester City in January be in for a left back, one who can defend, etc. Well, my own personal opinion is Mendy's done really well. I think he's played 10 out of 12 Premier League games. So I think we've got enough cover in Zinchenko and Delph, if Delph stays fit. So I can't see City rushing into anything. He'll be back hopefully by the end of the year. And yeah, maybe even a little bit sooner, maybe for the sort of Christmas fixtures. So I'll be surprised if we make any rash purchases in January. It's just one of those things that's happened. So, but have your comment below. Do you think, as some have claimed, yeah, is made of glass, is injury prone, is he another sort of Micah Richards? I'm not so sure. It's just one of these things. It sounds like it's more of a precautionary operation rather than waiting for it to get any more serious. So that's Ben Mendy. The next bit of news we have is on Phil Foden. Well, it seems that we're going to put pen to paper on a new 6-year contract, which will take him to 2024, which is absolutely fantastic news. And I don't think there was any doubt that it would happen. It was just a matter of when it was going to actually happen. So rumours are that his new contract, as with all the other players, is going to be heavily incentivised. It's going to be, a lot of that will be on appearances. They're claiming that he's currently on £15,000 a week, and that will significantly increase. And you know, at 18, he'll be 19 in May. Then I don't think that's a problem with his salary. Some will argue and say it's too much for kids too young, but at the end of the day, that's football. And as long as City incentivise it with him, then yeah, it's only a good thing. At the end of the day, is the future. So fantastic bit of news about Phil Foden, but it does sort of push into, sort of cast a shadow really on Brahim Diaz, and with regards to whether he will sign it. Well, we've hardly seen Brahim this season. We saw the couple of goals the other week, but yeah, it's not looking good, I must admit. And if he doesn't, and City don't offer him the terms and opportunities to play, then it looks like certainly he'll be gone by the end of the season, or even in January, where City may decide to just sell him, get a little bit of money back. And maybe put some terms and clauses in the contract to first buy back, etc., like they have done with many of the kids that has come to light, the likes of Sancho and others. So it'd be a real shame, because he is a real talent, but it's one of those whether at the time this time he feels whether it's worth hanging around for another year, with some of the players getting slightly older. Will he get more game time, or whether he wants it now? We've seen what happened with Sancho. He was offered a very, very lucrative contract at Man City. He turned it down. He's now playing for Dortmund and getting regular games for them, playing for England tonight by all accounts. So it's a difficult one. It is hard, and it'd be great to see him sign the contract and stick it out for another 6 months, a year, and see where it takes him. But at the end of the day, he's got to look after his own career and do what he and his family and his agent, etc., feel is the right thing to do. So let's see. Let's keep a close eye on what happens in the next few months with Brahim Diaz. But I think if we don't hear anything by sort of the turn of the year, then it's looking likely that he'll be gone one way or the other. Finally, I just want to say a massive thank you to everybody who've made comments, whether they agree or disagree, on Twitter with regards to the John Dillon interview, and below the video as well. Just to put a bit of context around it, everybody is entitled to their opinion on this, and whether they agree to accept his apology, whether they feel that it was done to save his own skin, etc., etc. I mean, that's by the by. We made the video because we thought it'd be remiss of us to be contacted by somebody, a journalist, who wanted to apologise. Now, if we look at the chain of events, there's been lots of debates back and forth with me on Twitter. There's been lots of debates and comments made. And the way I look at it is this: he made those comments, or he made several comments, but the cynic one, which sort of prompted the furore around it, he made those comments on TalkSport on the Weekend Breakfast Show on Saturday morning. And then gradually after that in the afternoon, some comments were made on Twitter, including by me, questioning the fact of that he shouldn't have used that word cynic. Now, people have said in reply to some of my comments on Twitter, well, he had plenty of time and it took him 24 hours to apologise. Well, let's face it, I'll let you know, John was working all day in the afternoon on Saturday. I wasn't actually looking at sort of timelines and certainly our comments as City fans and things like that, but he saw them in the evening. Now, sometimes in the evening when you see these, it's okay. If 3 or 4 or 5 or 6, 7 or 8 comments are made, doesn't always necessarily mean that those comments by those people are right, and that, demanding an apology and things like that doesn't always mean to say that they are right. However, he said overnight that he read more and more and more about it, and realised that obviously it's something he needs to address. And he listened back to the interview again, and then on Sunday morning he made the apology in over 3 or 4 tweets, and got a load of verbal abuse back for making the apology, including from me. I mean, I asked him questions which prompted the interview, and said, there are questions I'd like to ask, and then the series of events were he emailed me and said, I saw your comments and etc, etc, you've got questions to ask. And then I had a call and no caller, no ID on my mobile phone, and I answered it thinking it was a business call, and it was John Dillon, and he said, I have to do this because threats that have been made and things like that. So I said, that's perfectly fine. I said, but if you want to come on video, we'll give you an opportunity to apologise on video rather than on Twitter, and how that is taken is it's nothing to do with us. Everybody's entitled to an opinion, and there'll be no sort of editorial rights on your half. We'll edit it as it is, and we will ask you questions surrounding that and others if you're happy to do that. Now, John didn't know any of the questions I was going to ask him, and I basically spent sort of Sunday night looking at not just the cynic comment in isolation, but everything else that was said during the conversation, not only by John Dillon, but by Georgie Bingham as well, where she used the word regime, so did John. She alluded to the fact that we as City fans have no right to complain about FFP, and that we as City fans cannot separate between loving our club and financial irregularities, which again was wrong. So I put the questions together. I spoke to John again. We agreed on Monday to do it via Skype. He was having some problems with his laptop, so he had to do it on his phone. And I put the question to him, and I think, in all honesty, I gave him a pretty, rough ride. But it's not for me to rant and rave and become all emotional during an interview that's for the channel. I have to be objective and I have to be specific with what I'm asking him. And I think we did that. Whether people agree with it or not, I mean, that's a different side issue. But, like I said, I think it would be remiss of us not to have given him the opportunity to apologise. Now, my other thinking on that is this, and this is my own personal opinion, not the channel's, but mine. Mine is we as fans complain all the time about journalists making derogatory comments, remarks, whatever they may be, in paper, on paper, in emails, on Twitter, or, in interviews like on TalkSport. Now, we complain non-stop about that. Now, if a journalist, for whatever reason, and I'm sure there were personal reasons why he actually apologised, wants to come out and apologise, then we should afford them the right to do that. Now, what doesn't help sometimes is when people reply back with, you're a cunt and now you can fuck off and you can this and I'll give you a slap next time. And so what that's doing is basically saying, look, we want you to be accountable as journalists for your words and your actions and everything else. But if you do apologise, we're just going to come back and give you absolute grief and, be aggressive towards you and things like that. Which, can you think in the future, a journalist is going to look at it and go, why the hell should I apologise? Because all I'll get is just verbal abuse, threats against me, threats of being hit and slapped and punched and everything else. So why would they in the future come out and apologise and be held accountable for their actual actions? It doesn't make sense in my eyes, in my opinion. And all we're doing is we're trying to say, look, whether we agree with the actual apology or not is one thing. Everybody's entitled to an opinion. But what I don't think we should do is go back and then start making threats against them when they do come out and apologise. Because, to be fair, John could quite easily have ignored this. He could quite easily have just let it lie, come off Twitter, kept quiet about it. And to be fair, after a week, in all honesty, this would be forgotten about. And we'd be on to something else. There'll be other things we'll be complaining about as fans. And he could have gone about his business and maybe not come to City in the Etihad at certain games and left it. And then he might have got a bit of verbal in the future. So, I think we've got to be careful that, we don't complain about these journalists when they make these ridiculous comments, disparaging comments, wrong comments. But then give them absolute grief when they come out, on a rare occasion and apologise for them. Otherwise, it's pointless. We may as well just stop asking them to apologise, like the Matthew Said. Has he come out and made an apology for calling Manchester City rats? This is somebody who works for the BBC. Has he come out and apologised and said anything? No. It's gone underground. And it's now, a few days afterwards, it was, quite nasty comments and giving it him back and things like that on Twitter. Now it's gone quiet again. Now, John Dillon could have done that, and the chances are this time, next week, it'd all be quiet again. So, anyway, they're my thoughts on it. I just think, if we want to make journalists accountable when they do, make these types of comments, then the least we can do is accept an apology in respects of, I still disagree with you, but fair play for giving it, but I still disagree with you. What we shouldn't be doing is tell him to fuck off and I'm going to give you a slap next time I see you and all this garbage. It's absolute nonsense because all we're doing is defeating the very thing that we're complaining about, and that is trying to make journalists be accountable for their words and their actions. So anyway, that's just my thoughts on it. John rang me again last night, and just to say thank you very much for giving him the opportunity. He's reading as much as possible that's on Twitter and social media about it. He is grateful for giving the opportunity, and he can't change people's minds. All he can do is say that he is genuinely apologetic. He will be making an apology to Manchester City and David Silva. So I will ask him and push him on that and say, would it be right to send us a copy of the apology in whatever form it was given, so that we can put it on the channel or put it on Twitter or something like that. So we'll see what happens with that. I will follow it up with John. But I just wanted to, you know, put my point across as to one of the reasons why we did the video. Because at the end of the day, it's not about sensationalism. It's not about getting a scoop and all that type of stuff. Because, you know, we're a channel that doesn't make money. We're not in it for clickbait, likes, that type of thing, because we don't get anything financially out of it, because that's not what the way we are. It's not what the channel was set up for. So anyway, I hope that sort of explains it in there. And if you still disagree, that's absolutely fine. No problem with it whatsoever. I just wanted to put across why I think, you know, we shouldn't go back in an aggressive tone for somebody who was made an apology, a rare apology on camera, for something that's said. And let's face it, the Ferrari was around the cynic comment, yet I pressed him on 5 or 6 other things, like the regime comments and the likes of what about FFP and things like that. So hopefully, you know, if journalists now start looking at that video and thinking, well, fair play to him to come out and comment, or it stops, or it makes people, just as they're about to write something or say something, just take a step back and a second out and just have a think about the words that they're using, then, you know, hopefully that's gone a very small way towards contributing to, you know, a better dialogue between fans and journalists anyway. So anyway, guys, this is Andy from Man City Fan TV. One last thing I want to say is there's an excellent Q&A in the Daily Mail with Martin Samuel. So go over and have a look at it. It's I'll just bring it up. It's an article that's been published. He does sort of like Q&A on questions that he's been asked below some of his articles, and he puts them all together in one. And this one's all surrounding the Der Spiegel and the FFP stuff, and it's called "Most Fans Would Be Sick of What Would Have Happened Without Chelsea and Man City's Money. The dream of a wealthy type making your club great again should never be denied by the elite wanting to keep all the good stuff." And it's a Q&A on people that have made some really interesting questions, but the way that Martin's answered them go into a lot of detail and are really, really interesting. So go over and take a look. It is on the back of everything that Der Spiegel published last week. It gives you a little bit more insight and some great posts to some of Martin's articles back to 2010 when he was pushing all this, but way before FFP came into place, talking about the elite wanted to keep everything inside themselves. So anyway, guys, this is Andy from Man City Fan TV. We'll be putting out a video later today or tomorrow on the Goan Supporters Club who were watching with United fans in Goa the derby on Sunday. So I'm just editing that this afternoon, and we'll get that up on the channel. But anyway, guys, thanks for your support. Keep the comments coming, whether you agree or not, and we'll see you soon.